Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Screenstars. I'm here today to bring you my review for the 2023 science fiction horror drama Infinity Pool. The film is written and directed by Brandon Cronenberg, and it stars Alexander Skarsgård, Maya Goth, and Cleopatra Coleman. Now, the film focuses on James and Em, who are a married couple. James is a bit of a failed writer. He released a book about 6 years previously that kind of faded into obscurity. He's never been able to find the inspiration to kind of write a follow-up sort of thing. So they're on vacation at this fairly well-to-do resort in some obscure country somewhere. And they're kind of under strict instructions kind of not to leave this resort. But this one particular night, he and his wife kind of they meet another couple, another married couple, Gabby, and I think it's Albert or something like that. I think he's French or Albanian, something like that. And Gabby's played by Mia Goth from like the X movies and stuff. And they kind of get talked into leaving the confines of the resort. They get a little bit tipsy, and on the way back, Alexander Skarsgård is driving and he kills one of the locals. They think they've got away with it. They kind of keep stum, and then they all get taken away to this facility by the authorities. They're basically given an ultimatum because the penalty for murder in this country is death. However, for a tiny sum, they will be cloned or recreated, and a copy of them will be made so that the next of kin of the family of the person that they killed can kill this copy to get their revenge, and they're allowed to sit and observe it. So that's what happens, and then an orgy of sex, drugs, violence, indulgence ensues following this. And as Alexander Skarsgård's character jumps down the rabbit hole and explores his dark side. Right. What are my thoughts on Infinity Pool? Well, if it sounds a little bit mad, this concept, it is. I mean, I did say at the beginning, this is like a sci-fi horror drama. And it's directed by Brandon Cronenberg, who is obviously the son of David Cronenberg. So you know what you're getting here, guys. This is a little bit out there. It's a bit of a assault of the senses in a lot of ways, a bit of a fever dream. It kind of plays around with a lot of things, this film. And it's bizarre, is the best way I can put it. Now, that's not me being critical. There is certainly a lot to be entertained by with this film. It's beautifully shot, beautifully made, standout performances, especially once again by Mia Goth, who's outstanding as Gabby, this, temptress, if you like. I mean, she's just been great in everything I've ever seen. I might not have been a big fan of the X film, and I haven't watched the follow-up that they did because I just didn't fancy it, but I do recognise her talent for sure. But this film, like I said, it's like an erotic fever dream. You know what I mean? It is erotic at times, but not blatantly so. The things it shows, it kind of does it. It plays around with light, and it's all quite artistically done and all this kind of stuff, and you don't see a right lot. And it is my understanding that I think to get the rating that he wanted, he had to kind of tone it down, some of the sexual content in the film. But occasionally, I mean, I think this is a film that will offend some people who are easily offended. There's a lot of grotesque violence in it. You could argue unnecessary violence, you know what I mean? But it's an exploration, I think, of the human condition, all this kind of stuff. It's an exploration of, those with far too much money to know what to do with it, to go on holiday and, to just kind of let their animalistic side run wild. So it's playing around with a lot of themes, this film. But I can understand some people, if you're like watching this film and kind of just checking out and just thinking, this is just stupid. It doesn't make any sense. And it's just a little bit overindulgent, and it certainly can come across that way. I think at times I think it delves a little bit too heavily into overindulgence. I think at times it does it almost mirrors his father's work at times. You know what I mean? And that's my main worry for Brandon Cronenberg at this point is, you know, he reminds you too much of his father. Now, I'm not saying that's necessarily a bad thing, but if I'm perfectly honest, I'm not a massive fan of David Cronenberg. You know, some of his more commercial stuff I've enjoyed, but his more obscure work is just not for me. And this is just, I think, hovering and bordering on a little bit too obscure for me. It kind of holds you, this film, and it's fascinating. And it's just almost unmissable when you're watching it because you're just trying to make sense of what you're seeing. It's something different, and I think in a world where we are getting Marvel films churned out, DC films churned out, you know, studio films and sequels and, you know, fast food movies, or so to speak, and the avatars and all this kind of stuff. There has to be a room in the market for films like this that are experimental and different, that will either, you know, a bit like Marmite for some people. Some people will watch it and they'll be grotesqued by it. Other people will watch it and be fascinated by it. Other people will watch films like this and really analyze it and pick it apart and try and figure out what everything means. So I think there's something for pretty much every audience member that wants to get out of this film. I think it's just below the level of being like massively memorable and, you know, going into the excellent area. Like I say, I just think it's a little bit too obscure for my liking, a little bit too arty at times for me. But there's no denying that it's a massively interesting film and fascinating to watch, and that will probably freak you out a little bit when you watch it, because it certainly did me. Anyway, that's certainly something a little bit different for you guys to check out if you get the opportunity. I will, of course, be back with a little more reviews and content on the channel very, very soon.